It's been widely acknowledged that human intelligence is the highest form of intelligence on the planet. With about 100 billion neurons, the human brain is not just complex, but it is capable of doing a lot of complex tasks. The neuroplasticity of the brain, which is nothing but its, in rough terms, its agility, is capable of many things, including growth, change, generation, regeneration, and reformation, and much more. The cognitive ability of the brain, which is what is called a conscious intellect, is also thought to be very superior across all beings on the planet. Now, if you talk about sensory perceptions of humans, we've got a fairly impressive set of sensory perceptions. But there are other creatures on the planet who have some superiority over us. For instance, eagles are prized with visual perception, which is 4 to 5 times superior to ours. Likewise, with audio, our ability to hear sounds is limited to a certain frequency. Let's say that is what we know of is between 2 and 20,000 hertz of frequency. But eagles, bats, elephants can hear well beyond that. Now, suffice it to say that we have a fairly good repertoire of sensory perceptions. Now, why am I talking about intelligence and sensory perceptions? Over the course of last few decades, there has been a creation of a parallel universe. And this is the universe of artificial intelligence, this is the universe of machines, and this is the universe of sensory equipment or sensory devices. That's a better phrase for it. Now, as for artificial intelligence, we all read a lot about it. But the large language models of artificial intelligence today communicate with you and me in the same language as we are capable of understanding. These models create text, video, audio, films, pictures, whatever you may want it to create. They're able to compute, they're able to write code, they're able to write essays, college applications, they're able to, basically produce text on demand. The natural language chatbots, which you and I almost talk to whenever we choose to on the internet, these natural language chatbots are very human-like. And they also have the capability to be as fluent as humans are. And therefore, what has happened, given the wide range of tasks that artificial intelligence is able to do, artificial intelligence has become an outsourced service provider for intelligence. It's truly transformational. So therefore, the intelligence that sat within us is now also sitting beside us. Now, if you talk about sensory perceptions, actually sensors have been in existence for a long, long time, several decades. So sensors are in your phones, sensors are in your kitchen equipment, sensors are in your household equipment, and sensors are there in farm equipment, agriculture equipment. Most defense equipment have sensors in them. And what do these sensors do? What they are essentially doing is taking stimulus from the environment, sending electronic signals to which then you and I respond. What was earlier happening is that my body or your body and our sensory perceptions reacted to the stimulation in the environment of whatever kind, light, heat. We were thermal sensors, we were light sensors, we were all kind of sensors. That capability is within us. But what earlier we were doing is to respond to the stimuli in the environment, and the sensory organ sends signals to the brain, and then we acted on that. Now today when I drive a car, the sensors embedded in my car actually tell me whether the air pressure in the tires of the wheel is adequate, suboptimal, or whatever it is. It sends an electronic message to the dashboard on my car, and I'm able to react to it. I do recall that for many, many years I would check the tire pressure manually to see if the tires were adequately, had adequate pressure or not. But I no longer do that. What I also recall doing is peeping out of my car window to see if there was some vehicle in very close proximity, dangerously close to my car, so that I had to steer myself away. But today my car has a sensor. It's embedded with not one but many sensors. It actually monitors the proximity of various vehicles in the vicinity of my car. And if there is a vehicle in very close proximity, it sends me a signal. And that signal appears on the dashboard. So really speaking, what has happened both with intelligence and with sensory perception, which is intrinsic to our existence, it defines us in a manner of speaking, are sitting outside of us in a parallel universe. And that is what I meant when I said a parallel universe has emerged. So that is the world of sensors, and that is the world of intelligence that has emerged. Now, what does this mean for us? For today, for tomorrow, for the next generation, for 2 more generations? I think if I look at life very simplistically, I think it rests on 3 pivots. The first pivot is, of course, our individual self, our emotional self, our need for love or, encouragement or validation or acknowledgement, sympathy. That's the one pivot of our life. The second pivot on which I believe our life rests is the pivot of education. And why I believe so is because we spend 20 to 25 years of our life educating ourselves. The third pivot of our life is employment, passion, the need to earn wages, the need to make a living, to make a profit, to meet our ambitions, and so on and so forth. So that, to my mind, very simplistically, is the 3 pivots of our life. Now, if you look at the first pivot, which is our emotional being. When I was growing up, my family was a very private family. I think a lot of families were. What we discussed within the family was like what was discussed in a closed user group, what you call a CUG in today's environment. Our successes were celebrated within the family. Our failures were commiserated within the family. There were no public proclamations of love. There was no emotion display in public. We did nothing of the kind. And I think a lot of families were like that. Now, fast forward to today. I think what's happening is that things have changed with social media, and a lot of acknowledgement that you get on social media, by the way, is from bots and artificial intelligence. There may not be real people behind that. But really speaking, the world has changed. Today, you are making proclamations on the social media to netizens, to citizens you don't know of the internet. You are seeking sympathy, acknowledgement, validation on the internet, and you are getting a lot of that. Now, there's been 3, fallouts or results of this kind of environment that we live in today. First, I believe that there has been a leveling of what was the pecking order. The pecking order of family, friends, social circle, and the larger community you lived in, your town, your village, whatever it was. That pecking order, to my mind, has been turned on its head. There is no pecking order now. It's a flat world, which essentially means that the exclusive situation or the position that your family enjoyed no longer exists. We are all on the same page. Your family, your friends, your social setup, network, and the community at large. So you equalized everyone. The second impact of this, the whole emergence of the world of internet and artificial intelligence has been that historically, or not even historically, till about a few years ago, the acknowledgements, the validations, the encouragement that we sought from the family and that came from the family is now being sought on the internet with a wide community of people. They could be bots as well. They couldn't be real people all the time. We are seeking that acknowledgement. We are announcing, our bereavements, we are announcing our successes, our victories to the world at large. Now, while you are getting that acknowledgement, what is happening is that you're counting it in numbers. It's the quantity. You're looking at hearts, emojis, thumbs up, people writing, text to you, hugely comforting. But what this essentially means is that the quantity of validation has overtaken the quality of validation that you may have got from a parent, a sibling, or whoever it is. The quantity now matters to you much more. And this is very satisfying, even for adults, for students, for everyone, children. And this satisfaction that you derive is addictive. So the third thing that has happened is that essentially we are spending, for work or for pleasure, spending a lot of time with this netizens of the world. And I repeat, they could be bots on the other side, not necessarily humans who validate you. So what's happening is that the more time you spend with these netizens, the less time you spend with people, willingly, wittingly, unwittingly, and the less time you set up with people, spend with people, the more emotional engagement you have with intelligence or machines or citizens on the net or whatever you may call it. Now I must share something interesting. I was surfing the net the other day and I came across a website called Replica. It said companions and therapists, and in quote it said, "We are your companions forever, always on your side." And it struck a chord with me. In relationships, what do you look for? You look for a companion who's always agreeing with you, who's encouraging you, who's supporting you, who's not countering you, who's not on the other side of the argument or a situation. And so there are people who are resorting to this, resorting to seeking comfort from artificial intelligence. And then there was at the bottom of the page, there was a testimonial from a gentleman who said, "Replica has been my companion in urban solitude." So the environment we live in today is we live in an environment of solitude, but we are creating that solitude manyfold with our own actions. Now the conclusion I draw of this is that the relationship with artificial intelligence, the relationship with machines, the relationships in this world, we are developing a very emotional, personal, and I would say an intimate bond with the machines, with artificial intelligence. And that is a trend we all need to be mindful of. Now, the second pivot that I talked about was education. I think the dictum of education for us, and I presume for you as well, is that practice makes you perfect. And so we wrote our alphabets again and again. We wrote our we did our math, basic math again and again, so that, it got embedded in our head. We learned grammar over and over again so that we could write better letters, better essays, better compositions, and then grow up to be a good creative writer with good grammar. So practice made you perfect. We still follow it. But what has happened is a bunch of very smart people in the world today have created artificial intelligence. What they've also created is generative AI, which is generative artificial intelligence, which is an artificial intelligence that generates itself. It makes itself better by practicing, and that's not perhaps a correct phrase, but looking at and evaluating the data available at its disposal again and again until it develops an expertise. And so therefore, generative AI has become an expert. Why? Because it follows the same dictum. The dictum being practice makes you perfect. And therefore, having become perfect, what it is doing now is producing very fine quality text, fine quality poems, essays, and it's doing computing, it's doing coding with great accuracy, and consequently, there you have it. So, what does it mean for education now and go forward? Would it make sense to have the same model of education, teaching people the basic mental math, teaching children the same grammar lessons that we gave, or would artificial intelligence spew it out more quickly, cheaply, and better? Would there be a new paradigm of education? And therefore, what is that model or shape of education that will coexist in our artificial intelligence world? And this is not too far away when we'll have to answer some of these questions. Now, the third pivot I wanted to talk about to you is the pivot of employment, occupation, by whatever name you may want to call it. Now, what has happened is that, for instance, and I'll take an example, India produces about 1.5 million graduates, engineering graduates, during the course of a year. The world produces maybe varying numbers, but give or take, we have 3-4 million engineering graduates being produced. Talking about India, I am aware that a lot of these young engineering graduates, one of the roles they aspire for is coding or software development. And so they specialize in or building expertise in writing code. Now, if AI were to write this code, which it is, with great accuracy, or write software, what does this mean for a lot of young budding engineers who aspire to write code? Now, I was reading somewhere that one of the literateurs in Japan got an award for a good book, or I think it was a piece of writing or a book. And she acknowledged that she had contribution from AI. 5% of the book was contributed by AI. And she acknowledged the contribution of AI. So essentially, AI is helping you write books. AI is helping you evaluate medical reports that it is sending to clinicians. AI is now getting into the area where it will get into diagnosis. And so on and so forth, with multiplicity of occupations. A large investment bank recently released a report where it said that, and this is as recent as last month, it said that as on date, there are 25% of our current existing occupations that will be impacted by AI. Within 3 years, 2025, there are 45% of the existing occupations that will be impacted by AI. And therefore, this warrants a lot of thought in terms of what occupations will be relevant in the age of AI. That having said, I think these are sort of very significant questions the world is grappling with, the technologists are grappling with, leading personalities in the area of artificial intelligence are grappling with. But in conclusion, I will say that what is happening is completely mind-bending. Second, what's happening is all of this is hugely transformational, but it will be disruptive. The third point I want to say is that we are where we are. It's not reversible. There is no way of going back. We will at best progress forward. And the fourth thing I want to say is that artificial intelligence is now moving from a domain of education, computing, helping us with text, video, audio, to an arena of emotions. And the relationship between emotions, human emotions, and artificial intelligence is getting to be very close, personal, intimate, and of course, highly emotional. This is borne out by a lot of what you see around, what you read around, what is really happening. The dependency on AI is very, very significant. Fortunately, we have a mind of our own. The artificial intelligence as yet does not have a mind of our own, of its own. And therefore, all I'll say is mind your mind and mind your heart. Thank you.